Hi everyone, my name is Amy Moore and I'm running for the Vermont Senate to represent the Bennington District. Many people in the district know me from a variety of places, teaching computer science at CCV, Suzy Q's, the pool hall in downtown Bennington, and Southshire Roller Derby, which competed at Riley Rink. In my more private life, I've lived in Vermont for 50 years and lived and worked on my property in Pownell for 32 of those. My husband and I run Muddy Paws Farm, where farmers and homesteaders we make and sell about 30 gallons of wood-fired, non-reverse osmosis syrup, and we know what it means to make a rural Vermont life work, season after season, while working full-time jobs. I joined the Navy in 1989 because I wanted to serve my country. Now that I've retired from teaching at the Community College of Vermont, I have the time to serve my community, and I feel strongly that Montpelier needs more strong rural voices. This is why I'm running. Bennington and Windham counties and all of Vermont are facing real pressure right now. Rising costs, strained school budgets, housing that's harder and harder for local families to find and afford. These aren't separate problems, they're connected. The Senate needs someone who understands that connection because she's lived it, not just studied it. A little bit about where I came from because I think it matters for the job. I earned my degree in radiography through the Navy's Reserve Allied Medical Program at Champlain College, and later my degree in business management from Southern Vermont College. From 2002 to 2025, I taught computer science at CCV in Bennington, Brattleboro, Rutland, and online. And I served on the Vermont State College System's AI committees. So I've had a front row seat to how fast technology is changing the world we and our children are all growing up into. I'm a curious person, and my personality thrives on digging deep into questions, gathering information from different and reliable sources, and thinking and acting outside the box. I love to listen to people and hearing their needs and questions and working to get answers. I've spent my life in this community in ways that go beyond the classroom. I represented Pownell on the Bennington Regional Planning Commission through the 1990s and 2000s and was elected chair in 2007. I served on GNAT-TV's board during the early days of the World Wide Web when we were all figuring out what that shift would mean for local media. As I mentioned earlier, my husband and I own Suzy Q's, a pool hall and arcade in downtown Bennington, and I co-founded Southshire Roller Derby, a league for men, women, and children from 6 to 60. I'm a small business owner, a farmer, a teacher, and a neighbor, and every one of those experiences shapes how I see the challenges facing this district and our beloved state. My first priority is representing the needs of rural Vermont honestly and directly, and that starts with how land use decisions get made. Vermont is living through this with Act 181. I care deeply about conservation, protecting our forests, our farmland, our water, and I care just as much about housing because families can't stay here if they can't afford to live here. Those two goals aren't in conflict, but Act 181 was written by urban and suburban NGOs without enough input from the people who actually work this land every day. And that's exactly why rural Vermonters organized, pushed back, and won a repeal of at least the road rule and Tier 3 this spring. That's not a failure of conservation. That's a failure of the process. Sure, there were public input opportunities, but the sheer length of the bill required practical application to see where it fell apart. My second priority is breaking the cycle of interconnected costs that's squeezing families. Property taxes are strained by how we fund education. Rural health services are stretched thin and in some cases non-existent, driving up family health care costs, housing costs, insurance, energy efficiency, and utility costs are all tangled up together. In Montpelier, these issues often get split apart into separate committees, separate bills, separate conversations. And that's part of the problem. When you separate them, you lose sight of how one decision ripples into the next. My life hasn't been lived in one lane. I've been a teacher, a small business owner, an X-ray tech, a sailor, a farmer, and a planner. I'm used to looking at a whole system, not just one piece of it. And that's exactly the approach these interconnected concerns demand. I want to make sure that when the Senate takes up education funding, transportation, healthcare, or housing, we're thinking through and know how every decision affects families, businesses, and communities before we vote. From all my years of teaching and farming, I also know how to explain things in different ways to help people understand and be engaged with these complex problems. I'm Amy Moore, and I'm asking for your support to represent the Bennington District and the Vermont State Senate. Check out my website at amydmoore.com, and thank you for watching.